Welcome to episode 13 of the Amazon Connect podcast. Did I say 13? 11.
It's still a
You're getting
You know,
ahead of
you know,
yourself.
you know
Dan.
why I said that? You know why I said that? Because I
Why did you
had
say
in my
that?
head I was going to talk about how we're nearly teenagers. And I put in
Okay,
13
got
into
it.
there you
episode
go.
11. 11, 11, 11.
Yes.
Here we
we're
go.
We're still a little bit pre-teenager at this point. So yeah.
That may be our first ever edit. But welcome to my co-host, Mark Rutkowski. How are you, Mark?
Good. How you doing, Doug?
Really well. Where are you? You don't look to be at home. That's not.
I am not at
North
home.
Carolina.
I am in a hotel in Dallas. This week is a stellar week where I get to go to Dallas, Seattle, and San Francisco. So
Wowee.
it's a fun getting in my
Freaking
miles
farm
this
off
week
become
for
new
sure.
landmark.
Absolutely
of that.
getting in your miles.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
I'm off to Brisbane later this afternoon, but that's
Okay,
as
nice.
crazy as it gets. Which is actually me using up my some company time or non-company time, because it is in fact a public holiday here in Melbourne for a
Ah.
horse race, the Melbourne
well,
Cup.
Do
So
you
there you
get
go.
do you get the public holiday off?
Well, I do. Yes, yeah. So
Yeah,
this is
okay.
me. This is how much I love you all.
Wow. Well, we appreciate that.
And my love grows even more because we have a third musketeer. Clyde Logue has been proficiency-based routed into the podcast.
That's right.
Clyde, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. I'm a principal product manager at Amazon Connect, and I'm responsible for the customer engagement solutions that we have, which span the gamut from self-service and AI driven capabilities there, all the way through to workspace, cases, customer profiles, tasks, etc., step-by-step
mhm.
guides,
Uh-huh.
and all of the first P and we call it 3P solutions in that space. So it's a
Super
pretty
exciting.
exciting remit, and we've been working with a whole bunch of customers to implement this. It's been great.
Yeah, well, we'll go deep on that in a
We
second.
will.
But let's get some what's
Yeah,
news out of the way.
definitely.
Now, Mark, do you want to take the first one?
Sure.
What are you thinking?
Yeah. So I think one is preview dialing mode for outbound campaigns. I think that's a good one there, right? So essentially, now we support preview dialing, which is essentially now you can review that customer information right before placing those calls, right? And then a part of that too is the campaign managers can configure those time limits and enable right when contacts can be removed. We've got new analytics dashboards and improve visibility around the agent behavior and campaign performance. So again, I think this is an aspect of where you just continue to see us. We had Anjan on one of the earlier
We did.
podcasts, and you just continue to see us just continuing to add more and more key capabilities to our outbound campaign.
I think it's and this was a gap for certain customer use cases, because the predictive dialing obviously very good for collections where time is of the essence. You want to get people talking to people as many minutes in the hour as you can. Whereas this one's more for that maybe a use case where you're wanting to reach out and talk to someone about an existing customer about an issue they have or something like that. Just taking your time, not wasting their time, not annoying them, I guess is the
Yes.
for want of a better term.
Right. Yes.
Um, I'll take the next one, which is we're increasing permissions granularity this time for conversation recordings and transcripts. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's another customer ask we get reasonably commonly, which is more and more granularity. We want to be able to control exactly who can see what, who can listen to what. And for your larger organizations, and particularly ones that have different business units, different, or even maybe they're a BPO style where they're serving different customers and they really want that separation of who can access what. I think this is, again, just making it easier and easier and better for our customers.
Yeah, it's always
Um,
something where I think when we talk about security profiles, we always look at how do we improve and make that easier, right, for our customers to have lower level controls around the different capabilities that we have across the Connect services, and that's always something we're continuing to iterate and improve upon because there's just endless use cases there that we can support around those profiles.
Absolutely. And there was a bit of an announcement during
Yeah,
the week,
okay. There was a little bit
end
of
of
so we
last week.
so we had our Q3 earnings report. And typically, often when we report on these earnings, you don't see often sort of the introspection into a lot of the underlying services and how
Yes.
profitable they are, right? From that perspective, we typically don't talk about that. But
Mm.
I was actually pretty jazzed to see that we actually talked about Connect as part of that, and particularly as I've been with Connect since we launched it back in
Mm.
2017. Doug, you've been early on as well.
Just a little after that.
Yeah, a
It
little
was
bit.
November 2017.
A little bit.
November 2017.
We actually announced that Connect is essentially, we've reached a 1 billion annualized revenue run rate, in these recent
Which
weeks,
is amazing.
which is amazing, right?
Super.
Along with 12 billion minutes of customer interactions being handled by AI in the last year. So
Yeah.
we've talked a lot about how we leverage AI across Connect overall, and I mean this just says it right there, right? Like that just says how often, how many minutes we're using across our AI services overall. So we're not just saying the fact that we leverage it, our customers leverage AI, but we're demonstrating the fact that they use it every single day, particularly in this past year, right? I the reason I'm going on this mad tour across the U.S. is it's if I haven't talked agentic at least 30 times a day, then what am I doing? but it's but it's
Yeah.
the but it is the hottest topic, right? In terms of our customers are it's the number one use case is the contact center when it comes to AI, and that's what we're constantly talking about it to customers, is to try to understand they're going through their journey and trying to figure out how do we leverage this? How do we leverage this in with Connect and other capabilities in our contact center? And that's and what I'll say is we have reInvent coming up. As we like to say, that's Christmas for AWS. I will
Mhm.
say there's a lot of stuff coming for Connect as well. Like it's just going to be as typically we see at at reInvent for for us. So stay tuned if hopefully you're going, right? If folks haven't signed up, definitely recommend going to
Yeah,
reInvent,
do
'cause
so.
it's a great event, and particularly with the ability, I was talking to some customers today and I said one of the biggest benefits of going to reInvent is the fact that you get exposure to other customers. So
Mm.
wherever you are in your journey, you really can have that interaction and appreciate whether you're just starting your journey or you're well into your journey, right? You'll find, all customers that are on all different phases of that,
You can
of
learn
that
from them.
integration with
Yep.
Connect.
Learn the lessons. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Totally true.
That last point there about us about the earnings call and the call out for Connect. I don't think I can share the numbers, but I will say when I started, we used to get an email every day of how much money had gone through
Right.
the Sydney region or
Yeah.
IAD or I think Oregon may not have even been launched yet.
Yeah.
And I can tell you it was a small number.
We came a long way.
It was a tiny number. I was a little bit when I started like, how is this paying my wages?
we
But
we
we
were
ramped
scrappy.
quickly, and 8 years to $1 billion is phenomenal.
It's
Like that
fantastic.
was like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
like it
Totally.
really would. Yeah, that to
And-
have seen it, I almost wish we still got those numbers published internally. I understand why we can't, but I did it because you see new customers come online, you see the number bump up, and
Yeah.
or we price reductions, you see the number drop.
Mhm.
It was fascinating. But anyway, I think we've kept him hanging on the telephone far too long already. Clyde, I want to begin by asking how it feels to have come in at the helm of basically the biggest expansion, I think, in what Connect does as a category that
Mm,
we've launched over the 8 years. The biggest change, but really, that was the moment where it stopped being contact
totally.
center as a service. Like
Mhm.
it's more than that. It's the full orchestration, all that kind of thing. So tell me about that, because
Well,
when you
and it
came
was,
on board, because you've been there since the beginning of that.
so this was just, I joined a little bit under 4 years ago, so almost 4 years, and we were just
Has it been that
launching
long already,
cases.
Clyde?
It hasn't. Can you believe it? I know.
That's
It's just
that's
hard to
crazy.
believe. And so, yeah, I remember, being there for the fifth anniversary of Connect when
Mhm.
I
Yes,
joined.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
And we're going
and
to be
we've grown a
crossing.
lot
And
since
we'll
then
be
too. We
hitting
get
10
to a
years.
billion by going on a slow
Yeah.
curve there. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a good time. So we when I joined, it was a few months before we launched the Cases product, which was, I think, a real, as you mentioned, it was a unique spot in the marketplace for us, and I think for any contact center as a service. To my knowledge, that hadn't really happened. None of those players, and even today, aren't in the case management business or don't have a case management solution as part of the overall. So there was always a vision that Connect would be able to help companies with that, that sort of help desk capability at the
Hmm.
contact center,
Hmm.
and that would expand to include customer profiles, step-by-step guides, other, third-party apps that you want to plug into that workspace experience. And this would reduce the need for customers to build their own custom desktops, which was something that nobody really
Yeah.
wants to do, unless you get into the very, very top of the population of corporate.
Even
Uh,
then,
Yeah.
I'm
and even
finding
then,
most of those are
Yep.
walking away from it because it's
There.
totally.
too annoying to maintain. It just creates
I,
an
I,
operational
I
headache,
I think,
and the workspace going.
yeah,
Oh,
here's
God.
here's my premise. Here's my theory. It's also the fact that there's now such demand on leveraging, and building AI capabilities, right, into
Mhm.
your contact center and as part of your, agent desktop experience. Like the fact that,
Totally.
trying to now something like doing all that heavy lifting of building your own custom desktop, like
Mhm.
there's better things to be doing. All right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's
why
not
why
on.
spend all
Yes,
this time, right, in terms of that investment to manage, what is essentially a sophisticated container, right, in terms of that
yeah.
desktop experience, and then all the core capabilities around that. And what we often see with customers is the fact that we are moving at such a huge and fast velocity that
Mm,
any custom experience just immediately you're falling behind. Right. And
yeah.
that's that
Right.
is that is
Right.
one of the biggest challenges. But Clyde, I'll let you maybe talk some more about some of the,
No, no, and I think
aspects of
that's
that.
what when we worked with customers, around this decision point that they have, right? How much customization do they want to sort of participate in?
Mm,
They try to stay as generic as possible. Let's say, as sort of out of the box as possible. And we've got a couple different sort of pathways for them as they want to customize that experience. So, the first step is the step-by-step guide. So you can create these guided experiences for agents, and they can step through essentially like a wizard, and you can pull into that wizard like different third-party systems you might have, like an order management system or the booking system. Bring that into that experience so the agent's using and interacting with that as they fill out a case or manage a case. And then
and I think that's a really important point there. That one that these are not. It's not a step by step. Choose your own adventure. Do this, then this, then this. It is actually going off, and if you choose to, interacting with third party systems, potentially agents. Going forward,
Yep.
we've been talking a lot about that vertical view of how to use AI in the contact center. So the human remains at the top, actually doing the talking to the customer, but the AI agents could be going off and doing all kinds of tasks underneath. Could be doing all that.
Totally.
This is not a static workflow. This could be entirely dynamic, what you're seeing on the screen based on the information you're getting from other areas.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, those are the kinds of things, those are the directions that we're going in, where those guides will be more dynamically created and assembled, through agentic systems and interactions and guided by humans.
Yeah, I was Clyde.
And
I
then
was
the other
actually
piece,
I was actually
yeah,
telling Clyde, right, like a customer today, right? I was telling him that the fact like it's one thing to take a knowledge base and show that to an agent, right? So a
Mm,
knowledge base article, right? And like, okay, here's the 10 steps. It's another to actually turn that, that SOP into an actual set, a guided experience, right? Because which do you think
yeah.
an agent wants to leverage? Do they want to go through this nice step by step, visual guided experience to solve a customer problem, or do you think they want to read a 10-page,
And
I mean, a
the
10-step
options
process of the doc,
may
right?
adapt is the other thing. Like you can't have a list of 10 instructions or 10 steps that then changes as you're reading down the 10 steps. Whereas
Right.
as you're bringing them up one after another, you can change what happens on there. Can I ask one supplementary question on this point? I had been told that this step-by-step guides was largely driven out of intellectual property and ideas that we had come out of Amazon.com. Is
Mhm.
that correct?
totally. That's
Uh-huh.
absolutely
Yeah,
true. Yeah. Yeah.
and I think
Yeah. And
that's
and
yeah.
it's
Go on.
funny. So it's been a back and forth, right? This sort of, we've traded ideas with Amazon customer support,
Mm,
throughout the history of Connect, right? Connect rolled out of Amazon customer support as a
yes.
solution internally developed. And now, in the last year, Amazon customer support is adopting cases. So, they'll be using our case management inside of
Mhm.
Amazon
Mhm.
customer support. So, but that idea of the step-by-step guide did come from that experience that you get as a consumer when you're on the website or in an app and you're actually going through the wizard to figure out what to do with, your desire to return a product or if you have some issue like that. And that is, I think, another aspect of the self-service piece of step-by-step guides is that you can both use them to assist agents, or
Yes,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
use them to assist end customers. And you can use that. There's that reusability. You built it once, you can potentially reuse bits of it or
And
the entire thing
let's
on
spell
that
that out
customer's
for
behalf.
the listeners and viewers,
Mm.
the lucky viewers. If
I mean, there's three handsome guys here, so what do you? I mean,
so
Totally.
so what we're saying is the same instructions or even a modified version of the instructions in the step-by-step guide that is presenting to agents. If you decide, actually, this is something a customer, we're just going through and just pulling
Mhm.
information. So they could begin a
Sure.
chat experience and they're chatting away, and then you could actually say, well, hold on, it looks like you want to renew your car registration. Bang,
Mhm.
here comes the step-by-step guide with the actual, here's the fields you need to put in, here's the information, and as you say, that reusability. So you, whether it is
Totally.
the agent collecting the information or the end user, the customer collecting inputting the information themselves, the same step-by-step guide is being used.
Yep, and it's as easy as dropping it as a component into a flow, so it occurs as part of a Lex, transaction. So
Mhm.
you're in talking to a bot, and it says, "Wow, this is probably the right guide for you," and or
Mm.
now agentically, right, suggesting it, right? We found a guide that will help you figure out how to return your product, how to file a case, all of which could happen inside of the chat experience
Well,
out of the
I
box.
saw overnight, Andy Jassy said that Rufus, the AI bot on the Amazon.com website, had accelerated revenue massively by helping people find the right product on the website.
Mm,
So, I mean, that's an example of that AI experience going from internal advice to external advice.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know if you've used Rufus, but I actually, it's a really great way to search for things
yeah,
on Amazon.
right. Because there's so many products to look to choose
Yeah.
from. It's yeah, it just helps you kind
And
of make.
yeah, so the reason I brought up the Amazon.com coming out of there is always to remind people that we have one of the world's, if not the world's largest contact center as something that we can learn from, as
Yep.
well as all our
Mhm.
customers. And I
Totally.
think that I don't think I know that gives us a unique perspective and a unique position in the market as a supplier of contact center services, that we have this vast body of experience and knowledge to draw from.
Yeah, I mean, every
Now you
every Prime
mentioned,
every
oh,
every Prime Day, right, is an opportunity in terms of right, in
Totally.
terms of ensuring that, you can have you can optimize that experience overall, and
yeah,
that's, we get
lessons of
a lot of
scale,
data from
yeah,
that.
yeah, how to get out of
Yeah,
your customer's way.
yeah, so you can use the guides, and the last step is you can create a 3P app, which all exists within the the orchestration space and the data space of
Hmm.
Connect. So the 3P app is a helpful way to use potentially APIs of Connect, like cases is exposed as APIs, or other capabilities. The routing of tasks and things like that is a part of your 3P app to achieve whatever kind of custom experience you might want within the confines of the overall experience without a completely ground up build of customization.
And
I
3P for people, so it's clear, it's third party apps.
Third
It's being
party
able to
app.
present a browser page, or and so it could be, if you wanted to put Google search on there, that you could have a Google
Totally.
search third party app or anything in it, or it could be, as we discussed last week, Mark, Salesforce as
Right,
your third party app actually within
exactly.
there.
Mhm.
But Mark,
But I think
you were
that
oh,
Go ahead.
oh yeah. I was going to say one thing that we've been kind of when we work with customers these days, like nobody's because of agentic AI and the changes that are happening, people aren't thinking about it like I need another case management solution.
Mhm.
They're
mm,
thinking about how can I solve customer problems from the beginning. As soon as we start to see a problem, either emerging from proactive outreach, right, using outbound campaigns, you're like, your package is delayed. Well, I might want, or your flight is canceled. I might want to then, interact with some portion of the company, right? So if you think about that funnel as you come into the company, like the first thing is a customer usually wants instant answers.
mhm.
If you can tell me the answer, great, and then I won't have to trouble anyone, with a call or a chat. The next step is give me just a simple step by step way to get an answer. Right? It's more than an instant answer, but I could walk through that step by step guide. I could file my case. I could understand the implications of a particular thing that happened with my product. And get to a point where there's a decision point. And maybe it's like, we'll get back to you.
Mm.
right? And that's the sort of like the third level, sort of these asynchronous, more messaging things. Do you mind if we get back to you through WhatsApp? Do you mind if we get back to you with an email? And that might be fine, right? It's not time intensive or time urgency. And this is enabling companies to really get the value out of the team, right? They can say, okay, this group of people are going to work on async. These ones are going to work on these more synchronous channels like chat and voice. And so that's the last, I really need to talk to somebody right now. You want to reserve that capacity for exactly the kind of, high touch, high value experience that you want to give them.
You said a bunch of interesting things there, Clyde. There was so much in that.
I know there's a little sort of structure about the way we think about this, and sort of
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
resonating with customers. They're really like, okay, I get it. Like, here's how we need to. It's almost a bit of a roadmap of how you should start to structure the way you deal with customer inbounds,
Well,
throughout the entire
two
tree.
parts kind of stand out for me. So the first is that flipping the way a contact center thinks of customer interactions to be more customer focused. And by that, I mean multiple interactions can be about the same issue. So
Mhm.
Yep.
that's the sort of the simplest way I'd explain cases to customers. That basically, as a contact center people, we're trained to think of individual interaction. How many calls did we take? How many chats did we
Hmm.
take? What was the average handle time? Did we get first contact resolution? Bang, 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 done. Those are our metrics. Whereas from the customer perspective, it's, as we all know, hey, I've called 3 times about this. This is one issue. The other thing that stands out is how you mentioned moving into sort of the orchestrating a piece of work to completion that might go outside the contact center. Could be within asynchronous
Mm.
people within the contact center, but could be actually this piece of work needs some back office help, or it needs needs to go to a third party company to verify or to get some information or something like that. Um, that the crucial bit there is that this work, uh, because we're not licensed, the contact center can actually be kind of rubbery in where it goes to. Like if I wanted Mark in the back office to do a piece of work, that can be allocated to him. He can log in, check it, do the piece of work, and it's not costing the organization anymore in terms
Mhm.
of we're not. It's not a license for Mark. It's not a
Right.
okay. Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
we're not a per seat model, right? It's a consumption model. And so
yeah,
I think you hit on the other piece of it. It's like you've got that flexibility, right? You can expand the audience for Connect as large as you want to make it. And then you can start to optimize over time. We have customers like Zepp's World Remit, where they were able to sort of tune the number of cases they create and tune the way they're
Yeah.
using our products to shift more towards self-service. And
mm.
there's a great kind of customer success story on our website that talks about the way they've really changed the mix and driven up self-service by employing all our agentic and step-by-step guides capabilities.
And
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 I think. Oh, sorry, Mark. I keep talking. You
No,
go.
no, I was gonna say, I think that's a key part of it, right? Is that seamless integration with the channels, right? And that, particularly around when you're optimizing around that CX experience, that like I think people underrate how important that is, right? And the ability to, have that, that case information and
Mhm.
seamlessly integrate that across your chat, your voice, right? And ensure that that's, that you've got that end-to-end experience, right? Whether that's a self-service or you're enabling the agent to do that as well. I think that's super important, right? That
And when it changes
reducing that
between
friction.
agents, maybe there's
Mhm.
two, three, four agents involved in one case because it's been multiple touch points, or there's a transfer, or there's that's all seamless, and it's all because it's all the one routing engine, all the one platform.
Mhm.
You've got all that information available. That self service part you spoke about there, Clyde, is really interesting because we do talk a lot on this about on the podcast about the importance of humans working.
Mhm.
The best outcome is humans with the right tools and great. But I do
Well,
also I recognize, and the example I often give is mobile and internet banking, where no one wants to call the bank. No one really wants to go into the branch, use up your lunch hour to go into the branch because mobile banking and web banking is so good. I
Mhm.
can do
right.
more through my mobile phone than I can if I go into a branch. If I go into a branch, I've got to ask someone behind bulletproof glass who works for the bank to move money between my accounts. I can actually stand in the branch with my own little piece of bulletproof glass,
Yeah.
and I'm an employee of the bank insofar as my data is concerned. I can move money between my accounts. And I think that's that self-service experience we're talking about there, where it's um, enabling your customers where they don't have a problem. They don't have an issue. They just want to get something done, enabling
Mm,
them to do it. And
yeah.
I think the most powerful example of self-service in action is the fact that Uber and Netflix were both illegal when they started. They were
Mm,
both. They were, you had to be outside the law to use them, and yet people wanted it so bad because the
mm,
service was so much better
Mhm.
that the law
right.
changed. And that's
Yeah.
if anyone wants an example of or motivation for if you make it good enough, the people will come.
Mhm.
Those two are the perfect example. I know Uber got used for everything, 10 years ago. Every startup
Totally.
was, it's going to be the Uber for this, it's going to be the Uber for that. But I still think there's lessons to be learned there that those two
Mm.
have, to have gone from to actually change the law because you made the service so good.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, keying back off your sort of notion of that, the seamlessness of the orchestration and data layers that you get with Connect,
Mm,
that I think what's great about those self-service experiences we've been talking about is they always have that like safety net, right? You can always, if you really need to tap out to talk to an agent somehow, like it's seamless. You should be able to do that if you really need to. And we've all had that experience where you're working with self-service and it's actually like actively frustrating you when you're trying to like reach an agent. And I think, we have all of the data to make that experience, easier where it should be easier. And provide those extra shots of help where required for customers. So, you want to keep customer sat high, but you
yeah.
also want to be
Yeah.
efficient. And
Mhm.
I think those are sort of like the
Finding when's the right time to pull one of those levers. Yes, that's the magic, isn't it? So
totally.
there's two things I'd like to cover before we wrap up. I know, Mark, if you've got more, but I'll let you know what they are so you can decide how you want to answer
Uh,
them.
let's just we're all in, Doug. Let's go.
Yeah, all right, all right. So the first is how would a customer begin with cases? Someone who's heard about this for the first time, maybe they're already a Connect customer, but they haven't
Yeah.
really, because I think, but there's a huge number of customers out there who just haven't even looked at or touched
Mhm.
cases, even, yet they are big Connect customers. And the
Yeah.
other, is, of course, is what's coming. Is there anything
Yeah,
you
so
can share in terms of yeah?
the quick answer is there's great documentation on our website how to turn it on, but you essentially
Mhm.
create a cases domain within your Connect instance,
Hmm.
which is essentially adding cases, and then there's just a few screens to create your own cases, right? So you basically create case that comes with default fields, so you edit the case
Mhm.
fields that you want to have on your case
Things like Case
templates.
ID, those kind of things.
Case
So
ID, those all
yeah,
come default, right? There's probably 10 of the default, system ones. You can turn those on or off to a certain extent. And then you go ahead and you can create custom fields for the variety of different types. And then you can add those to templates. So you can have a template for fraud cases. You have a template for,
Mhm.
general cases. You can have a template for billing cases. So you have 3 case templates at that point. And then you should be able to create cases essentially. And those are, and each case is associated with a contact and a
hmm
customer profile. So you bring this sort of data model together. You get to see like how many cases did Clyde have, how many cases did
Mhm.
Doug have, that kind of thing. These are all sort of like out of the box capabilities, but it's that easy. We've had I don't know, literally hundreds of customers self onboard to cases. Like it requires no
Mhm.
professional services to get up and running with the base thing. It's something
that's awesome,
very very simple.
and there's no cost until you actually start using it.
There's
It's
no
per
cost until you
case.
start, and then
Yeah.
it's priced on a per case basis. So it's
Mhm.
12 cents a case in perpetuity, basically. Like we have a retention policy of like 7 years, but you can set up your own to control how long you want the cases to exist in our system. But essentially, they're stored for a long period of time.
And all that data goes into the data lake, of course, as well as onboard
Exactly.
reporting. But yeah,
And that's a great
we
segue into things that are coming. So data lake
let's
support
blow
for
it.
cases is coming soon. We have we launched a whole bunch of features this year for cases in particular. I mean, not only workspace cases, but if you talk about cases in particular, one of the biggest I would say was SLA support.
Yeah,
So you could create
Yeah.
multiple service level agreements for a case based on the status or various rules that are involved in the case being processed throughout the and I neglected to mention, but you can create custom statuses, right? So as many statuses like in process, what have you. It's not a fixed status model. for the
Mhm.
case. But as it progresses through the case, the statuses are associated with SLAs. So if this thing has a certain period of time, it can be in progress, or a certain period of time before it needs to be closed, or resolved, or whatever your case is. And you can have these SLAs overlap on each other. So you could have an initial one of like, it's got to move from started to in process within the next 4 hours, if it's a high priority customer. And you could also have it has to be resolved within 7 days.
Yeah.
So those are both, overlapping, but the most important one is the one that's currently ticking. They're both ticking, but the most currently one is the one you're earliest to exceed that limit, right? So that's how they work. So you can have as
And
many SLAs as you want on a case.
it's really interesting as well for I'm seeing a lot of customers who maybe already have something like a Salesforce or a Siebel or that kind of
Mhm.
thing that
Mhm.
that maybe is handling their large contact center or a large section of what they do. But every one of those customers has multiple other contact centers that aren't using
Totally.
that main
Mhm.
platform.
Mhm.
And those platforms aren't necessarily designed for contact center. They're designed for CRM, for customer relationship management, which has a whole life outside of the contact center. And so
Yeah.
what I'm seeing is a lot of customers saying, well, actually in the contact center, we need simplicity. We need the agent needs these 4 pieces of information, or in order to get transition this, that then feeds back into, some CRM tool or something else where
Mhm.
that's, holding that information for other business purposes, washing against other business information, other customer information. But that's another thing I'm keen for people to understand is if you've got an IT help desk, you've got an HR help desk, you've got internal contact centers. Again, it scales perfectly because you're only paying per
Totally.
case.
Totally.
So
And we have a number of customers that have done just that kind of integration, right? They have the contact centers using Connect Cases, but in the back end, they might have a customer or partner who has ServiceNow or Salesforce or Zendesk, or with all three. Then
mm,
we're essentially
that's the
using
other
our
big
own
one.
event bridge to
Multiple, yes.
Mhm.
totally, as
Mhm.
that case
Yes.
gets created, it's creating a corresponding case in those systems, which
Mhm.
Yeah.
then creates a nice sort of situation where they can either close
And
that case when
simplifying the
it's
life
done.
of the agent. As you say, they could
Totally.
be having to log
Yeah.
into 3 or 4 different systems. Could be a billing system as well that you're able to actually, well, no, I'm just focused on the customer issue here. Mark,
Exactly.
I'm going to throw to you for the last question because we are, as always, 2 minutes over time. I don't know is there anything else you'd like to
No,
winkle
well,
out of
you stole
Clyde?
my last question there, Doug. So
Oh,
I was gonna ask some about some of the patterns, right? That we're seeing, which you nailed it. So
Yeah.
from that perspective, um, you know, maybe Clyde, right? As we kind of think ahead of where we're going overall, right? I think part of this too is how do we think about the age, like I mean, we talked a lot about cases, right?
Mm.
But then sort of the
Yeah.
larger agent workspace experience. How do we customers think about all of that coming together, right? Particularly around these use
bring it
cases
home,
that we just
Clyde.
highlighted.
This is
Yeah,
it.
I think, well, I mean, I wanted to say one more thing about cases. It's interesting
Sure.
because the word case, right?
This
Container,
is the trouble
right?
with
It's a
getting experts
container.
in on things. They just
That's right.
No, no, but I will get to that. But what's interesting is we've had customers start to think about the case as a way of tracking the self-service success.
Mhm.
Because if you think about it, when we think in the contact center, we only really, really start to pay attention once it's become a contact, like either, someone's called us or someone's
Yeah.
chatting with us or
Mhm.
someone's
Mhm.
WhatsApping us.
Right.
Now it's like, but all of that experience that was, before that, right? That the customer was like either on the help site, pounding around trying to find something, or, talking to the bot. Some of that's included in ours, but, and sometimes if the customer has a third party bot, they're not seeing that in the contact center, like
Mhm.
what
Yeah.
happened on that
Yes. Yes.
self-serve
Yes.
journey. And so pushing the case out to the beginning of that, like making a case, like, as soon as someone reaches out and starts asking a question, logging a case for that, and then
Mm,
using that data, that metadata. And so if they go away successful, great. Now you have the denominator out of all of the interactions,
Mhm.
right? Both the self-service ones and the ones that hit an agent. Now you can tell, okay, this is the set that were successfully, resolved. And you can start to, really inspect those at a
I
much
love
more
it.
granular
Yeah.
detail.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, because there is an entity, a data object that contains that information beyond, and even if it spans multiple interactions, right? Because the one contact is one contact, but it could be over the course of the last day, this person came back and then went back again, and had
Mhm.
various interactions with self-service. And you want to kind of try to bring those together. So that's the reporting capability that you would get by using cases. in that way. But I do think that brings up the question of like the agentic workspace, right? So where are we going with agentic workspaces? And I think, I don't want to give away too much, but I think one can
You could give away a
imagine.
little, Clyde. Come on,
I
give us
give away a
something.
little bit,
Yeah.
that the configuration of the workspace is probably going to be much more, plastic, if you will, like, which means people can change it as required, within the parameters and guardrails that administrators and, business people want to give both their agents as well as even potentially customers. So we're going to have a much more, rapid development and deployment cycle, I think, for changes to the agent workspace, which hopefully will pay dividends for efficiency, customer sat, things like that. And so we'll have these very tight development, deployment, optimization loops, which I think is going to be great for everyone.
It's mind blowing, actually. That's going to be one that people are going to have
It's really
to see it to
exciting.
understand it, I think.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Well, I
Cool.
do know that Mark is desperate to go and get some dinner.
I am. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah. And you don't want to see him when he gets,
No,
he gets going
hangry
crazy with
Mark
the
is
blood
not,
sugar
is
level.
not good. No, it's not good.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, guys. This has been
Clyde,
great.
thank you
Yeah,
so
thanks
much
for
for being
joining.
on. Like, really,
Yeah.
I
Awesome.
feel as though, as always, whenever we have one of you guys on, like, it's just
We're just
like
touching the
we've done
surface,
like
right? We could
1%.
probably spend another hour talking about these things. So,
So,
That's great.
Clyde, we would love to have you back.
right?
I'd
100%.
love to come back. So
All right.
thanks.
Thanks, guys. Bye now.
All right. Thanks,
Talk
everybody.
soon. See you. Bye.
Have a good one. I'm going to go get a burger.